it done and get people served better.
Mayor Tory, don't step away just yet. Another question for you. In regards to your letter this morning, in some ways it connects with this project. You've asked for a lot of funding from the province, including funding for transit. Yesterday you asked for funding for the DRL before an extension of the Yonge Line North. It caused, and some of this rhetoric has caused, I guess, consternation at the provincial level. Do you think you're saber rattling, as the minister suggested yesterday?
I'm just speaking up for the people that I serve. And at the end of the day, I want to acknowledge, as I did yesterday, at length and in a long list, the investments that the province of Ontario has made in public transportation in the City of Toronto. But it doesn't stop today. We have to go forward, and part of our problem in the past is that we've completed projects that we've announced many years ago, and they're finally in service, and then we stand back and admire them and don't pay attention to the fact that that list is a continuous list. When the city is growing as fast as the City of Toronto and this region are growing, then there is the need to continuously invest in new transit. And it is no secret that the Relief Line and other projects like that have been on the priority list for some considerable time. And now it's time to move forward and say we're going to fund those and we're going to build them. People have heard enough from governments, plural, including the city government, over time about great plans they have for priority transit lines. I think what they want to hear now is we're funding them and we're building them. And so I'm not trying to rattle sabers with anybody, including my friend, Minister Del Duca. I'm just saying these are the needs of the City of Toronto, one of the fastest growing cities in North America, one of the most congested cities in North America, and I want to move forward and build these lines. And you can't really make the planning, do the planning you have to do and the work you have to do if you don't have the funding in place. And I was asking, in light of the positive announcements that came in the last week or so from the federal government, that the province should do what the federal government asked, which is to partner and match those funds and partner with us to move forward with those transit projects, including the Relief Line.
Mayor Tory, before you leave,
Sorry.
It's a related question. It's a bit of a sidebar. Story in the Star today about a couple of people in a West End condo are going to see their rent double next year, 100%. Of course, goes back to the 1991 bill. What's your take on that? Do we need to change this legislation yesterday?
I said yesterday that I find an increase that doubles somebody's rent, regardless of where you start and where you finish, but including an increase of $1,600 a month, to be excessive. And I don't know all the circumstances that could lead to anybody paying double the rent, because somebody has to pay it as well as being charged it. I do believe that what we have to do together, and it's part of the reason why the letter that I've sent to the provincial government this morning concerning their forthcoming budget also talks about the increase in supply, especially of affordable rental housing, but of rental housing generally. The Government of Canada has stepped forward for the first time in many years and made a substantially increased investment in helping to increase the supply of rental housing and repair some of the housing we have. And I now would like to see the province step up and partner with us, where we've put forward $1 billion of city-derived money to make sure that we can increase the supply. But in the meantime, I said yesterday, and I repeat today, the private sector, in carrying out their own activities with respect to the rents they charge, should be very careful about what they do in instances like this, because it can provoke the kind of legislative and policy reaction that is something they say would be very much against the interests of future construction of rental accommodation in the City of Toronto. And that would be a very bad thing for tenants and a very bad thing for the economy. And so I just hope that people in the private sector, like the landlord in this case, will consider very carefully how they behave themselves in this marketplace, so that there doesn't have to be a reaction that they would find would be damaging in the end to the rental housing sector.
Minister Del Duca, can you comment on that today? The NDP Tabbins is pushing hard to turn this around, we know. I think we'll need to take you up to that. Oh, okay.
Is this one? Okay, so I would only say I know that both the Premier and our Minister of Housing, Chris Ballard, have over the last number of weeks spoken publicly with respect to looking at the challenges that renters are facing, not only in the City of Toronto but beyond. And at the same time, we recognize that there are ongoing challenges in the housing market, in particular right around the Greater Golden Horseshoe. So I would say stay tuned. Certainly the Premier, Minister Ballard, and the rest of our government hear that there are fairly grave concerns, and I know that the Minister of Finance, Charles Sousa, has also talked about looking at some of these challenges. So I would say stay tuned, but we hear the concern loud and clear.
Do we have any other questions about the Regional Transit Centre, and then we'll allow the mayors and the minister to step down and take any other questions if they're available?
Yes, that's a question for Mayor Tory and the minister and any of the mayors that want to answer. If you build this transit hub, it doesn't guarantee that transit lines will then accompany you. There's no guarantee that those lines
So I'll go first. I would say when you look at the plan that the GTAA has talked about regarding the hub itself, it takes into account that we already have. So, for example, whether we're talking about the Union Pearson Express or the GO corridor that stops at Malton, which the Malton stop's not that far away from Pearson itself. Whether you talk about Eglinton Crosstown West. The extension that, as per our transit agreement with the City of Toronto, the Mayor referenced, I think, a little bit earlier, Mayor Tory referenced a little bit earlier, that the city is taking on the responsibility for that chunk. To the north of us, the province is about to build, or will be building soon, the Finch West LRT, which right now is scheduled to stop at Humber College, again, not that far away from the airport. You see that we already have lines that are close to or are planned to be built. And I think in the coming months, you're going to see more discussion around that. What we have today is the GTAA stepping forward, bringing information, data to the discussion so that we can look at it, and frankly, being strong champions for making sure that all of the communities that would be affected through the western half of the GTHA, that there are significant needs in this area. So I don't think that the work that we're undertaking at the provincial level can occur or should occur without a very strong partner here at the airport. And what we see today is that we have that evidence, that tangible evidence that the GTAA is a real partner. They're planning to bring not only their advocacy, but I suspect their resources to the table for part of this discussion, and I think that's critically important.
I'll just say, since you asked,
The city of Toronto will be building the Eglinton Crosstown West. It will be connecting Toronto and the Airport Corporate Centre, and that means Mississauga. I'm happy about that. What people want us to do is to build the transit that takes account of their daily lives. They don't really care where the boundaries are. They don't really care about all the intergovernmental discussions that are going on. They just want the opportunity to connect themselves to job opportunities, and there are lots of jobs that exist in the Airport Corporate Centre. And what's really important about today is that the Greater Toronto Airport Authority is providing the catalyst to actually help us make all of this happen, because they're going to bring all of these lines together, and it'll be an additional impetus for us to get the Eglinton Crosstown West built, which we fully intend to do. This will help make that happen, because there's going to be a hub where all of these lines come together to further connect people to opportunity, which in the end is what we're all trying to do.
Depends on a contribution from, or asks for a contribution from the GTAA and the City of Mississauga to build a connecting link on Smart Track. I'm wondering if either Mr. Ang or Mayor Crombie can comment on that and the status right now.
So, are we on? Not yet? Testing? Oh, there we go. Okay. So certainly we're very interested in the Eglinton Crosstown and what our responsibilities would be. We're going to do a full business case analysis to look at the benefits to the city of Mississauga. But certainly we have the Airport Corporate Centre employing more than 80,000 people right there going into the airport. Part of that airport economic trading zone that I call it, which is over 300,000 people. We're moving people to work. We're getting cars off the road. It's assisting everyone. It'll connect as well. It'll connect into the crosstown will connect into our bus rapid transit system, which will end at that airport corporate center as well. And there'll be connectivity not only to the airport, but also to the TTC subway stations.